Some memories never fade, no matter how many centuries pass, no matter how powerful one becomes. When Han Li thought of the past, sorrow followed like a shadow, and with it came a name that would shatter his composure, overturn his reason, and force him to choose between restraint and destruction. Han Li still carried a deep impression of the young girl he had once recommended to join Yellow Maple Valley. Yet soon after, another figure surfaced in his memories, the small, elderly man who had accepted her as his disciple's senior martial brother Ma. When Han Li thought of him, a faint trace of sorrow quietly welled up in his heart. Given his age, that small old man had likely never succeeded in forming a golden core. Even so, among everyone Han Li had known in Yellow Maple Valley, he was the one with whom Han Li had shared the deepest bond. By now he had most likely already returned to the dust. Feigning both annoyance and delight, she gave a faint smile and said, "Little girl junior martial sister Xiao is no longer some little girl. She has long since married and entered the core formation stage several tens of years ago." After recovering from his surprise, Han Li smiled lightly. "Oh, she also reached core formation. That truly is unexpected." Ni Ying spoke gently, her voice calm and sincere. "I have heard junior martial sister Xiao mention senior several times. She often spoke of how senior once guided her into the sect, and she has always carried deep gratitude and concern for senior Han." Han Li's smile gradually faded. His expression turned indifferent as he replied flatly, "At the time I merely introduced her to senior martial brother Ma because her aptitude was decent. Nothing more. All of that belongs to the past now." Ni Yan and Lei Wanhe could only exchange bitter smiles in silence. Ni Ying's attempt to persuade Han Li to rejoin the sect had clearly failed. As for the reason behind Han Li's unwillingness, the two of them could guess it well enough. Back when the core disciples had joined the Nine Nations Union, Han Li, still only a minor Foundation establishment cultivator, had been excluded and instead assigned the role of bait, only to be abandoned. It was only natural that he felt detached from Yellow Maple Valley and harbored no intention of returning. With nothing further to say, Han Li suddenly turned to the middle-aged cultivator of the Masked Moon Sect and asked, "Did your sect have a female cultivator named Nangong Wan? How is she now?" His voice grew noticeably gloomy. The middle-aged man, Tang Minghua, was startled. He quickly responded with respectful haste, "Our senior knows martial aunt Nangong. She is currently overseeing the sect and is doing quite well." Han Li was unable to conceal a trace of joy amidst his shock. "Martial aunt, has she already entered the nascent soul stage?" Martial aunt Nangong successfully formed her nascent soul over 100 years ago. She is now one of our sect's elders. Tang Minghua paused briefly before asking, "Is senior perhaps an old friend of martial aunt Nangong?" Han Li let out a soft sigh, his gaze dimming. "An old friend, that would not be inaccurate. I once received great kindness from your martial aunt, and I have long wished to meet her again. Unfortunately, over the years, I have been entangled in many affairs and never found the opportunity. Heh. Although martial aunt Nangong rarely meets with guests, senior should have no difficulty seeing her," Tang Minghua said with a light laugh. "In 3 months' time, martial aunt Nangong will marry Elder Wei of the Flowing Mind Sect. Their Dao companion ceremony will formally bind them as dual cultivators. This celebration was originally meant to invite only high-ranking cultivators of the Nine Nations Union. But since senior is her old friend, he will certainly—" Han Li felt his mind violently buzz. The rest of Tang Minghua's words faded into nothingness. Turning abruptly toward the Masked Moon Sect cultivator, Han Li coldly asked, "Dao companion ceremony?" "Yes," Tang Minghua replied cautiously. "She plans to marry Elder Wei Licken of the Flowing Mind Sect. He formed his nascent soul 300 years ago and possesses profound cultivation. He is a rare genius who did not originate from Heavenly South. Both of our sects invested tremendous effort to make this union possible." Han Li's icy expression made Tang Minghua's heart shudder. Countless chaotic thoughts surged within him, yet under Han Li's freezing gaze, he dared not stop speaking. Lei Wanhe and the others all revealed strange expressions. Even a fool could see that the relationship between Han Li and Nangong Wan was far from simple. Otherwise, how could Han Li react so strongly upon hearing this news? Yet to everyone's surprise, Han Li's cold expression lasted only a brief moment before vanishing entirely. With a gentle tone, he said, "There is no need for fellow Taoist Tang to be afraid. I harbor no ill intentions. I merely learned that an old love of mine is about to become another man's Tao companion, and my heart momentarily wavered. Since I now know of this matter, I will naturally attend and celebrate my good friend's ceremony. Seeing Han Li regain his composure, Tang Minghua finally sighed in relief and repeatedly voiced words of welcome. Han Li merely responded with a faint smile. The others aboard the chariot were also secretly relieved. After all, the 6 sects of Yue were now practically united as one. None of them wished to see internal conflict arise. Afterward, Han Li casually asked a few questions regarding the current state of the 6 sects of Yue. As the matters were unimportant, the 5 cultivators answered readily. However, upon hearing that Yellow Maple Valley's ancestor Lingu had reached the end of his lifespan, Han Li frowned ever so slightly before smoothing his expression as though he had heard nothing at all. Suddenly recalling something, Han Li asked, "Ah yes, your martial aunt Nangong should have a younger cousin named Nangong Bing. She should also be a cultivator of the Masked Moon Sect." Tang Minghua looked puzzled. Nangong Bing Sr. must be mistaken. Martial aunt Nangong has always been solitary. I have never heard of her having a younger cousin. Could Senior be in error? Han Li was momentarily stunned. After drawing a deep breath, he urgently pressed, "Nangong Bing should be a female core formation cultivator of your sect. Are you certain you do not remember?" Tang Minghua smiled bitterly. "If such a person truly existed within our sect, this junior would definitely know of her. I can state with certainty that there is no such woman in the Masked Moon Sect." Lei Wanhe, equally astonished, could not help but interject. "Fellow Taoist Tang speaks the truth. If a core formation cultivator of that name existed, we would all be aware of her. Where did Senior hear of this person?" "It is nothing," Han Li replied slowly. "Merely a misunderstanding." Though his words were calm, his heart was in turmoil. Han Li now understood. Nangong Bing had never been Nangong Wan's cousin. She had been Nangong Wan herself, concealed beneath some form of appearance-altering technique. No wonder she had never treated him ruthlessly, nor why her expression had been so strange when they parted. From that moment on, Han Li lost all interest in further conversation. His expression darkened as the wind-riding chariot continued forward. Seeing that Senior Han was clearly in a foul mood, none of the others dared to speak. For a time, the wind-riding chariot was shrouded in complete silence. Less than half a day later, Han Li halted the chariot above an unnamed mountain. Rising to his feet, he spoke calmly. "We shall part ways here. This place is only a day's travel from the border of the state of Fengyuan. It should be safe. I have matters that require my attention and cannot continue accompanying you." Lei Wanhe and the others dared not say more. They merely thanked Han Li once again for saving their lives before flying out of the wind-riding chariot. Han Li did not utter another word. He immediately turned the chariot around, and in the blink of an eye it vanished beyond the horizon. After the wind-riding chariot disappeared from sight, the elderly Heavenly Imperial Fortress cultivator surnamed Chen could not help but ask, "Fellow Taoist Lei, is it truly as you said, that Senior Han was once a disciple of Yellow Maple Valley and your martial nephew?" Lei Wanhe frowned and replied irritably, "What do you take me for, someone who speaks empty nonsense?" Though Han Li had saved his life, his former junior's cultivation now far surpassed his own, making him a true senior. The shift in status left him inevitably displeased. "Haha, there is no need for Brother Lei to be angry," Cultivator Qian said with a chuckle. "I merely found it puzzling. If fellow Taoist speaks truthfully, then Senior Han should be around the same age as fellow Taoist Nie. Fellow Taoist Nie, how long have you cultivated?" Realizing the implication, Nie Yan's expression changed slightly as he answered, "I cultivated for 200 years before reaching early core formation." Cultivator Qian stroked his chin and said gravely, "Then it would seem Senior Han required only 200 years to condense a nascent soul. Do you understand what this implies?" The giant sword sect cultivator could not help but cry out, "Brother Qian, are you suggesting?" Cultivator Qian nodded solemnly. "That's right. There is a strong possibility that this person may one day reach the deity transformation stage. It has been tens of thousands of years since such a figure last appeared. Although cultivators who reach deity transformation soon vanish from this world, every one of them was peerless during the brief time they remained. When such a being arises, the entirety of Heavenly South, righteous devilish, and neutral alike must unite, for none are capable of resisting even an early-stage deity transformation cultivator." After pondering for a moment, Nie Yan smiled and said, "Brother Qian may be overestimating things. Although fellow Taoist Han managed to reach the nascent soul stage in such a short span of time, deity transformation is still far beyond reach. That realm is not so easily attained. In truth, so long as he reaches the late nascent soul stage, he would already be capable of establishing his own sect as a hegemon. That outcome seems far more realistic. A sharp, spirited gleam flickered through Cultivator Qian's eyes as he slowly replied, "Haha, perhaps I am simply overthinking things. Still, if Senior Han does not encounter any unforeseen calamity, he will undoubtedly become a figure of tremendous influence in Heavenly South. Given his deep ties to Yellow Maple Valley, if he were to join them, I fear it would not take long before the state of Yue is reclaimed." After a brief silence, Lei Wani sighed softly. "Ties, you say, fellow Taoists saw it clearly just now. Although Senior Han originally came from Yellow Maple Valley, he is now an elder of the Heavenly Tao Alliance's Drifting Cloud Sect. Moreover, he has no intention of returning. No matter which sect he belongs to, Yellow Maple Valley will never be able to bind him." Once those words were spoken, the others found themselves at a loss. The cultivator from the Giant Sword Sect asked doubtfully, "Then why does Senior Han treat your sect in such a manner? After all, that is where he originated. Does he truly have no intention of repaying the sect's past kindness?" Lei Wanhe shook his head. "I cannot divulge the specifics, but the prospects are grim. However, from what I can see, his relationship with Senior Nangong of the Masked Moon Sect runs deep. Perhaps Senior Nangong could speak with him. Even if he does not rejoin our 6 sects of Yue, forming a friendly relationship would still be beneficial." Tang Minghua frowned slightly and said hesitantly, "This may indeed be possible. I will need to return to the sect and inquire into the relationship between Senior Han and Martial Aunt Nangong." "Leave it at that," Lei Wanhe said, waving his hand. "Roping in a nascent soul cultivator is not something we can handle ourselves. Let the elders decide. Senior Han should appear at the ceremony in 3 months' time." He then glanced around, frowning slightly. "In any case, let us hurry back to the 9 Nations Union. This place is not safe." Hearing this, the 5 cultivators immediately ceased their discussion and took to the skies. Though Lei Wanhe's tone had sounded calm, worry churned incessantly within his heart. How was he supposed to inform Ancestor Ling Hu of this matter? Could he simply say that a disciple the sect had once abandoned had now grown into an existence on par with the ancestor himself? Worse still, that very abandonment had sown resentment in Han Li's heart toward Yellow Maple Valley. Would reporting this not amount to openly rebuking his own Marshal Senior? Along the journey, Lei Wanhe could only sigh helplessly several times, his expression dark as he continued onward. Because the wind-riding chariot was far too conspicuous once Han Li had moved out of Lei Wanhe's sight, he put it away and continued his journey using ordinary flight techniques. Having suddenly learned of Nangong Wan's situation and such grave news, at that Han Li needed time to calm himself and think carefully. In the past, they had only shared intimacy once, and he had met her merely twice. Due to the vast disparity in their cultivation, they had behaved as indifferent strangers. Yet at some unknowable moment, Nangong Wan had unconsciously taken root in his heart as his own woman. After successfully forming his golden core and later his nascent soul, Han Li had come to view himself as worthy of Nangong Wan. That belief had only grown firmer with time. Thus, upon hearing that she was about to become someone else's Tao companion, his emotions had nearly spiraled out of control. Pretending ignorance of Nangong Wan's impending marriage was something Han Li could never do. In this lifetime, the only man qualified to marry her was Han Li himself. Moreover, he firmly believed that as the man who had taken Nangong Wan's vital yin, she must harbor at least some feelings for him. He absolutely could not allow the ceremony to proceed smoothly. He now deliberated whether he should head directly to the Masked Moon Sect and secretly take Nangong Wan away, or wait 3 months and crash the ceremony itself. Both approaches had their own merits. The first option was easier to execute. Yet Han Li doubted whether Nangong Wan would leave with him without hesitation. After all, she had remained in the Masked Moon Sect for many years and had risen to the position of elder. It was impossible that she would feel no misgivings about abandoning everything. The second option, appearing openly on the day of the ceremony, was far more dangerous. He would be facing the Masked Moon Sect, the 6 sects of Yue, and even the 9 Nations Alliance. However, if he could resolve all obstacles, he could be together with Nangong Wan openly and honorably without any future troubles. Of course, there existed a simpler solution. He could make Wei Liken mysteriously vanish from this world. Yet this was also the most perilous method. The Flowing Mind Sect was no minor sect. It was the largest sect within the Nine Nations Union, possessing 5 nascent soul elders. Its strength far surpassed that of the Drifting Cloud Sect. If Wei Liken remained within the sect the entire time, even with Han Li's abilities, there might be no opportunity to strike. And if he succeeded but his identity was exposed, the consequences would be catastrophic. As Han Li pondered, countless plans formed and dissolved within his mind. In the end, he chose a compromise for the sake of reliability. He would first rush to the Masked Moon Sect to meet Nangong Wan and ascertain her true intentions. If she harbored deep reservations or unavoidable difficulties, he would then visit the Flowing Mind Sect to see whether an opportunity existed, to silently eliminate Wei Liken, risking everything for a clean resolution. Should no such opportunity arise, he would appear openly on the day of the ceremony and formally propose to Nangong Wan himself. No matter the outcome, no matter her willingness, he would take her away by force if necessary. There were few things in his life that had ever stirred his emotions so violently. Han Li had always acted according to reason, rather than feeling. But this time he could not allow Nangong Wan to belong to another. With his current cultivation, anything short of a late nascent soul cultivator could not stop him. Having made his decision, his spirits lifted. Regaining his composure, Han Li increased his flying speed and surged forward. After the defeat of the 6 sects of Yue, they had no choice but to seek refuge with the Nine Nations Alliance. They eventually established their sects in the state of Beiliang, the region with the fewest sects and scarcest cultivation resources. Naturally, they could not afford to be selective when recruiting disciples. For over 100 years, the 6 sects cultivators openly and covertly clashed with local sects, before finally securing a tenuous foothold. The spirit veins and resources they possessed were far inferior to what they had enjoyed in their homeland. Nevertheless, after many years of desperate struggle, the 6 sects of Yue gradually recovered some of their strength, and their standing within the Nine Nations Alliance steadily improved. Among them, the Masked Moon Sect was the strongest, ultimately claiming a mountain range with reasonably decent spirit veins. The western side of the Gem-Cut Mountains in the state of Beiliang served as the base of the Masked Moon Sect. Countless buildings of varying sizes dotted the terrain, and numerous grand restrictions enveloped the area. The Gem-Cut Mountains were divided into 3 levels. The lowest level lay at the mountain's base and housed low-grade cultivators. Only core formation cultivators were qualified to reside in the middle level. Though foundation establishment cultivators were insignificant in the eyes of those at core formation and above, to stagnant chi condensation cultivators, they were towering pillars of the sect. The Masked Moon Sect's various stewards were all exceptionally capable individuals, each possessing foundation establishment cultivation, save for one exception. The steward in charge of mortal affairs, Yuan Kun, the sole chi condensation cultivator among them. This exception existed because the Yuan clan, a mid-sized local clan of the state of Beiliang, had welcomed the 6 sects when they first entered the country and had rendered great assistance, particularly to the Masked Moon Sect. As recompense, the sect agreed that this minor post would be reserved for Yuan clan members for generations. By chance, Yuan Kun happened to be the nephew of the Yuan clan's lord. With no prospects in cultivation, he was appointed steward at his uncle's personal request. Though lacking talent in cultivation, Yuan Kun was well versed in mortal affairs and handled his duties smoothly, never committing any serious errors. Over time, he firmly secured his position. However, due to the rigid hierarchy of the cultivation world, low-grade cultivators did not show him much respect, and the other foundation establishment stewards openly looked down on him. Yuan Kun paid this no mind, living leisurely within the sect, relying on his connections and bowing his head when necessary. One day, Yuan Kun appeared in the mortal village closest to the Gem-Cut Mountains, accompanied by 2 low-cultivation Masked Moon Sect disciples. As usual, they visited several shops to purchase daily necessities. Unbeknownst to him, after leaving the 3rd shop, an imperceptible strand of spiritual sense quietly latched onto his robes. Attentively observing this seemingly insignificant chi condensation cultivator, not long after Yuan Kun began shopping in the village, he efficiently gathered all the items he needed. Accompanied by his 2 assistants, he then flew back toward the Gem-Cut Mountains. However, when the 3 had traveled barely 15 kilometers from the village, a flash of silver light suddenly appeared before them, revealing a stunning young woman. She gazed at the trio with a captivating smile. "We are disciples of the Masked Moon Sect." Senior. Although Yuan Kun's cultivation was low, the strange scene unfolding before him made it immediately clear that the woman was anything but ordinary. Without hesitation, he invoked his identity as a sect steward in an attempt to protect himself and his companions. Yet it was as if the woman had not heard him at all. She let out a soft chuckle and gently blew out a wisp of pink mist from her lips. The mist seemed slow and languid, yet in the blink of an eye it enveloped the three completely. With their meager cultivation, Yuan Kun and his companions were utterly unable to resist. After merely inhaling a trace of the fragrance, their consciousness rapidly faded, and they collapsed to the ground unconscious. Without the slightest hesitation, the young woman flicked her sleeve. A white mist shot forth from her cuff, instantly wrapping around the three bodies and pulling them toward her. After casually glancing at their faces, she giggled softly. Her figure then shimmered with silver light as she took to the skies, carrying her captives with her. The white light traveled more than 5 kilometers before descending into a desolate forest. Beneath a towering ancient tree sat an azure-robed youth cross-legged, his eyes closed as if resting in tranquil meditation. The moment the white light appeared, it vanished. Yuan Kun and the others were silently placed on the ground before the youth, while the young woman gently descended from the sky. Standing respectfully in front of him, she bowed and said, "Master, I have brought them. They call themselves cultivators of the Masked Moon Sect. They should be the ones you were seeking." The youth slowly opened his eyes and asked indifferently, "You didn't alarm anyone else?" This youth was none other than Han Li, who had spent most of the past month rushing toward the state of Beiliang. Since he intended to secretly locate Nangong Wan, he could not brazenly appear at the Masked Moon Sect's gates. Doing so would only invite unnecessary trouble. Thus, he needed to first understand the sect's internal circumstances and had chosen to remain near a nearby town. Having once walked the arduous path of cultivation from the lowest ranks himself, Han Li knew well that low-grade disciples could never fully sever their ties with the mortal world. The town closest to the sect was inevitably a place frequently visited by such disciples. With Han Li's vast spiritual sense, no matter how many cultivators entered the town, none could escape his notice. Initially, Han Li had been observing another qi condensation disciple of the Masked Moon Sect. However, when a qi condensation cultivator wearing steward robes entered the town, Han Li immediately changed his target. A steward, after all, would naturally possess far greater knowledge of the sect. After placing a strand of spiritual sense upon him, Han Li instructed Silvermoon to capture the man and his companions. They were then brought to this forest, where Han Li lay in wait. Sensing that Han Li was in a foul mood, Silvermoon abandoned any thought of teasing him. She replied earnestly, "Master, rest assured. Capturing 3 qi condensation cultivators was effortless. It definitely did not draw anyone's attention." Han Li glanced coldly at Yuan Kun's unconscious body and gave a faint snort. "Well done. With your demon fox illusion techniques and my dream tear technique, he will tell us everything." Silvermoon immediately responded, "As you command, Master." Turning around, she exhaled several breaths of pink mist toward the 3 figures on the ground, the fragrant fog spreading to fill the surrounding area. Han Li stood up and slowly stepped into the mist. Not long after, faint pulses of azure light flickered within it. Despite its illustrious name, the gem-cut mountains did not reveal its reason for being called so at first glance. Rather than appearing exquisite or refined, the mountains seemed vast, strange, and imposing. The gem-cut mountains possessed few branching peaks. Instead, a single main mountain stretched for tens of kilometers. The lower half of the mountain was unusually smooth and sloped devoid of sharp cliffs, resembling a colossal ramp rising from the earth. However, midway up the mountain, the terrain abruptly became steep. The rocky slopes grew treacherous, and the spiritual qi became far more concentrated. This was where core formation cultivators established their cave residences. To prevent aerial assaults, powerful restrictions blanketed the mountain's upper reaches. Low-grade disciples had no means of ascending except through a handful of designated paths. At this moment, Han Li stood upon a simple stone road near the center of the gem-cut mountains, gazing calmly toward its summit. His appearance had been completely altered through the appearance exchange arts. His body stature and even facial features were now indistinguishable from Yuan Kun's. Naturally, he had also suppressed his cultivation to the qi condensation stage. After extracting all the information he needed from Yuan Kun and his subordinates, Han Li sealed the three within a hollowed-out dead tree and boldly entered the gem-cut mountains. With Yuan Kun's steward command medallion and the memories obtained through the Dream Tier technique, infiltrating the Masked Moon Sect proved effortless. He now stood within a market city built along the outskirts of the gem-cut mountains. Thousands of disciples gathered here to trade cultivation resources. Among the many shops were several that sold mortal goods establishments specifically overseen by Steward Yuan. Han Li did not rush toward the mountain's summit. Instead, he patiently followed Yuan Kun's usual routine, delivering the mortal goods purchased in the village to these stores. Under the watchful eyes of the shopkeepers, he completed each delivery before quietly glancing toward the mountain above. From the memories of the three disciples, Han Li learned that although Nangong Wan was nearing her wedding, she was not receiving visitors freely. Despite not being in secluded cultivation, even high-ranking disciples found it difficult to meet martial ancestor Nangong. As for why Nangong Wan had agreed to become Dao companions with Wei Liken of the Flowing Mind Sect, Han Li remained in the dark. The captives were of too low a rank to know such matters, a fact that left him disappointed. Yet from their memories, Han Li clearly saw that as the youngest nascent soul cultivator of the Masked Moon Sect, and a peerless beauty capable of shaking the world, Nangong Wan was the object of immense admiration among the sect's low-grade disciples. Countless male disciples harbored secret affections for her, Yuan Kun included. Though Yuan Kun had only seen Nangong Wan a few times over many years, he had nonetheless become infatuated. When news of her impending marriage spread, he had sunk into despondency for a long time. Upon witnessing these memories, Han Li found himself speechless. After finishing the delivery of the mortal goods, Han Li continued to handle other trivial matters according to Yuan Kun's habits. Fortunately, Steward Yuan had no particularly close relationships within the sect, and no one detected any abnormalities in his behavior. As dusk approached and the sky gradually darkened, Han Li judged that the time was ripe. Following Yuan Kun's usual routine, he calmly ascended the mountain. Though only a qi condensation cultivator, Yuan Kun was still a sect steward, and thus possessed a small, unremarkable residence on the second level of the gem-cut mountains. Han Li entered the second level without difficulty, though he encountered several Foundation establishment cultivators along the way. Upon seeing him disguised as Steward Yuan, some cast disdainful glances, while others ignored him entirely. When alone, Han Li let out a bitter chuckle and stroked his chin. It seemed that aside from his subordinates, this Steward Yuan was not well liked at all. Upon reaching the second level, Han Li did not return to Yuan Kun's residence. Instead, he activated a low-altitude flying tool and headed toward the mountain's summit along the designated path. Though the surrounding areas appeared empty, Han Li knew formidable restrictions lay hidden there and naturally dared not provoke them. Eventually, he reached the boundary between the second and third levels of the mountain. Two Foundation establishment cultivators stood there barring his path. One pale-faced cultivator frowned deeply and shouted, "Yuan Kun, what business do you have here? You should know full well that this place is not for you." After hesitating for a long moment, Han Li, maintaining Yuan Kun's demeanor, stammered, "Martial uncles, this martial nephew wishes to see martial ancestor Nangong. Might martial uncles be willing to report this?" The two cultivators froze for an instant before bursting into harsh rebuke. "What nonsense are you spouting? Yuan Kun, have you lost your mind? You must be dreaming if you think you're qualified to see martial ancestor Nangong."